Welcome to the How Aston Villa Won podcast, where we relive the glory years of Aston Villa. Yes, hello. You are once again listening to the How Aston Villa Won podcast. And it's actually a bit of a different one this time around because it's just myself, just little old me. I'm Martin and I'm your regular host. And this is something of an apology episode, to be perfectly frank. Episode 4, which was the sensational season begins, where we looked at the first couple of games. I actually didn't check the quality of the audio before I rushed it out. We recorded it very last minute, Af and I was more preoccupied with getting it edited and sent out before Saturday was through than I was about making sure the episode itself was okay and the audio was naff. It really hadn't recorded very well at all. I don't know if it was the Wi-Fi, if it was my phone, but either way, it was hard to listen to. So this is something of a mini episode between episodes 4 and 5. Think of it as episode 4.5 or episode 4B. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to call it. But all I'm going to do is talk to you by myself very briefly and just quickly run through the matches that myself and Af discussed last time out. So if you did really struggle with the episode or you couldn't listen to it, you can instead jump to this one and get a very quick race through version of those first few games. So shall we begin? So here we are now, and it is August, it is 1980, and we've had a run of mid-table finishes. So when you're thinking about the pre-season excitement, when you're there thinking, maybe this year's our year, I don't think Villa fans are particularly thinking this way, to be honest, at this point. I know that Ron Saunders talks it up, and we spoke about that in previous episodes, where he said, right, Peter, with you, the last piece of the jigsaw. If we can get 60 points, boys, we'll be doing okay. If we can finish with Liverpool, we're doing all right. I think he genuinely felt he had the squad where he wanted it, and he'd won cups with them before. He knew what they were capable of, and he thought it was the year. The team themselves knew they were a strong team and thought they could compete. I don't know if they all believed, starting out, they would achieve what they were going to achieve. But, and that was to get our story started. The first game was against Leeds away. It was the 16th of August 1980 with an attendance of 23,401 people. Now Leeds themselves hadn't necessarily been the shining glory they'd once been under Don Revie during the 70s. And in fact their manager at the time, Jimmy Anderson, would only last until September. So he wouldn't be around for long, which doesn't bode well for the start of their season. And it's something of a spoiler, so apologies. Leeds had finished 9th in 78, 5th in 79 and 11th in 1980. So yo-yoing up and down the league, not particularly going anywhere near the top, but not threatened with relegation either. Our average team age was 25 and a half at that time. And the starting team was Rimmer in goal, Swain, Williams, McNaught and DC at the back. Because Evans was injured, Williams had come in at centre-back and DC was at left-back. You have Bremner on the right, Cowans and Mortimer in the middle, and Morley on the left, which was our most common midfield lineup, and Shaw and With up top. If you want to, you can see the highlights of the game, which is pretty much just the goal. It's available on YouTube, thanks to Villa Boy, or you can get the DVD of the season review, 1980 to 1981. And myself and Af, when we spoke about it, kind of felt like it was typical Villa, in that we gave away a penalty 2 minutes in. So first game of the season, you believe, well, maybe this year, maybe this time. And then DC, who's been drafted in due to the injury to Evans, gives away a penalty. A bit soft, considering the time. But either way, Stevenson puts it away and we're 1-0 behind. And it's not until the 44th minute, the other end of that half, where Morley comes in from the right and his left foot scores a lovely goal. The kind of goal you'd think was quality today. even though we tend to think of the 80s or, earlier football as not necessarily being the same quality, the individual displays sometimes were strong, and that's a really good goal. After half time, we continue as we finished, and With lays it on. Well, it's Mortimer who picks up the ball after Morley is skipping down past and taken down. So it's saved by Mortimer. He flings it across goal. There's a flick on from With, barely worth mentioning, but it's just enough, and Shaw taps it in. And we start the season off with a win, which is always positive, good for everybody. And away from away on the road as well, Ellen Road, which is great news. If you follow Villa Boy, the next video coming up, and I'm trusting that is in chronological order. I haven't Googled it, I've not checked it. I've not got time for that. I can't check the audio on my own podcast. I'm sending stuff out into the stratosphere. There could be anything on it. So, I'm not Googling this. If you want to, you can go check. But there's a bit of an interview. And Captain Mortimer talks up Peter With, talks about how he can make an impact with the Villa team, and that with him in the team, they can win. Well, With rather says that. He admits himself that he's come to win. He's come from Newcastle, having won the league previously with Notts Forest, and wants to do something here and now. A little bit like Danny Ings, I suppose, in more recent times, an established striker coming to achieve something with the team. He believes can go somewhere or have something of a project. Ron Saunders also talks to camera about how good the team are in terms of their fitness, being able to outrun or match anyone in terms of their fitness as a team, and they can go toe to toe with anyone. Then we get to game 2, still in August now, and we played against Norwich at home. This is Ron Saunders' former club and the team we beat for the 75 League Cup. It was played on Wednesday the 20th of August with an attendance of 25,970. The team is more like the common lineup you'd see throughout the season. Rimmer, Swain, Evans, McNaught and Gibson at the back. Bremner, Cowans, Mortimer, Morley in the middle, and Shaw and With up top. Now, there's not much to report here. There's no highlights or no footage. And at half-time, it was still 0-0. So it sounds like something of a battle. 76th minute, there was a goal from Gary Shaw with an assist from Morley. I suppose, even though it was a hard battle, it was a victory they would wanted to have won, because at that point Norwich were a bit of a yo-yo team, like they have been in recent years actually. And in 77 they finished 13th, 16th in 78, 12th in 79. So they really were just stuck in that mid-table at this point, but they'll go back up and down either side of this. So 2 games, 2 wins, and then we come up to Man City, who again had a decent run in the 70s, but weren't particularly at their fighting best at this point. They had finished 2nd in 77, 4th in 78, but then dropped to 15th in 79 and 17th in 1980. Their manager was Malcolm Allison, who had helped them to win the title in 67, the FA Cup in 69, and Cup Winners' Cup in 69-70, before then coming back in 1979 to help steer the ship back. There's an unchanged lineup for ourselves, and it starts off strong, it starts off good, but it's not one of those stories where, they set you up just to then pull the rug. So Peter With scores in the 9th minute, and clearly it's battling the whole way through the match, because not until the 75th minute when we score again, with getting a second goal. 83rd minute, they score a penalty, and in the 88th minute then they equalise thanks to Ray Ranson. So it's just snatching a draw from the jaws of victory there. It's absolutely ridiculous, and that feels more like Villa, Pete Villa, to get 2 wins in the bounce, to start strong, just to throw away a lead like that. Considering how much we talk up the centre-backs of this team, and how everyone worked together in sort of little partnerships, it sounds a bit sloppy. I've not got any footage, and I'm sure there's lots of people who remember that game who were there that might say more. And as I say, there might still have been a bit of a strong lineup for Man City, considering the strong team they'd had previously. But before we go, I will just also mention there was a League Cup game on the 27th of August, which is a Wednesday. And we were again playing Leeds, this time at home, with an attendance of 23,622. Same starting lineup as previously. And Tony Morley makes the difference with a goal in the first half. So again, 1-0. So we're winning, but we're not winning by much. We're not prolific in terms of our goal scoring. We're just doing enough to get the victories and see out games. Although it's quite early to say. Looking at it in a good way, we're unbeaten. We're having a strong start, but it's just the big talking point there is dropping points against Man City, really, isn't it? So at this point, the league table is as follows. In first place is Tottenham Hotspur, having won 2 and drawn 1. There are 8 goals for them, 5 against, so a goal difference of 3 and 5 points. Ipswich Town had won 2 games, drawn 1 and lost none, so same as Tottenham, with 5 goals for and 2 against, so they also had a goal difference of 3 and 5 points. Southampton were third, 2 wins, 1 draw, 5 goals for, 2 against, another goal difference of 3 and 5 points. And Villa, the only other team to have that amount of points, so we had 2 wins and a draw ourselves, obviously, having scored 5 and conceded 3, so the goal difference of 2 and also 5 points. So you've got 4 teams there, all on 5 points. Below us are Sunderland with 4 points, Man United with 3, Birmingham City in 7th with 3. So they were knocking about back then. They were having a decent time of it. And Liverpool were 8th at this point. So perennial winners across the 80s before and after this season, either side of the 80s, struggled at the start. But that's your lot. That's August. Myself and Af felt that on the basis of what we saw and what we read, Morley was clearly our man of the month for August. I'll say that. He's that tricky winger. He was a difference maker. He was a little bit Jack Grealish in that you watch the interviews and he talks about how he'd get tied off and he'd muddy up his shorts to make it look like he worked harder because Jimmy Rimmer or Ron Saunders would tell him off. And he was just skipping down the wing and making things happen. And he was that, a bit young on the younger side, but still really should have been seen as an established player. But because of that playful character, he was often treated like one of the young lads and they were stricter with him. But he's our man of the month, and that's where we're up to. So, August is finished. We are 4th on equal points with the teams above us. And you'd think so far so good. You think it's a solid start to the season. Maybe we can do some business. It doesn't say that way. Because how could this be an interesting story if it was just a complete trouncing and if we marched through anyone and everyone? Of course, we're going to have some blips. There's going to be some drama. It's just fitting, isn't it? What else could you do? Except be dragged through the mud. Same old, same old. So, hopefully this has been useful for you. If you missed the previous episode, or if you could not listen to the previous episode, and it'll help get you ready before we return next week, where we look at the blip. So I've been your host. I'm Martin. I'll return next time, hopefully not on my own, because this isn't as much fun. It's not as much fun for me. I don't know about you. And we'll look at our next string of games and see how bad it gets. Okay, as ever, please follow us on Instagram, How Aston Villa Won Pod, with underscores in between, and How AV Won Pod on Twitter. Get in touch, get in contact, tell us what you think. Is there something we're missing, something you want us to mention? Get involved. You have been listening to the How Aston Villa Won podcast. Remember to subscribe and follow us on Twitter and Instagram.